Okay, so welcome back to the tasting series. This is the first beer we're going to do. So I'm choosing a Bavarian Weissbier, and the reasoning behind that is when we move people from sort of an industrial lager only, let's say diet. Actually, I shouldn't say diet. Anyways, when we move people from just drinking industrial lagers into the world of craft and flavorful beers, the first step is sort of to move them into a blonde ale, a Kolsch, maybe a Munich Helles, something like that, because they're subtle and they're sort of understated and they're quite delicious, but they can they allow a sort of a slow, gradual climb into the world of insanity, and so that doesn't really work with tasting because if it's too subtle, there's really not really much to pick out. Number one, but number two, it can just be difficult to find things. So Weiss beer, I think, is pretty good because it's not super complex, but there are a bunch of aromas and flavors there that we can sort of pick out, and there are two that are going to be very obvious. And so for anybody, you can sniff these out. Okay, so first thing we're going to do obviously is pour it. You know my philosophy on pouring. Normally I would pour right down the center of the glass, but these beers raise a pretty big head, and I don't really want that. So I want some, obviously. I want to volatilize some of that stuff, but I don't really want this big pillowy head I have to contend with. And you don't want to watch it settle either. So there we go. As you can see, no more than halfway. I want a lot of headspace here, of course. Just taking a look at it, this is a little darker than some of them, but it's you were looking for sort of anywhere from sort of pale straw to yellow. This is almost a gold color. So this is a bit darker. I wonder how old this is. We're going to find out when we smell it, taste it. All right. So so even from afar, I can get a little bit of banana and clove. Getting closer. So it's both. That's pretty balanced. And a lot of times you're going to get a beer that's got a lot of banana, or vice beer that is, a lot of banana or a lot of clove. Sometimes they're equally balanced. This one seems to be fairly equally balanced so far. Don't expect much from the hops. If you get anything, it's going to be very subtle and they're going to be probably floral. I think that's going to be the best description. They would be sort of continental hops or noble hops. So we're looking for spicy, herbal, floral. Floral is the best descriptor, and they're going to be very subtle and likely buried by the banana and the clove yeast products. From malt perspective, we probably aren't going to see much or get much out of this just from the sniffs. But if anything, it's going to be sort of like a bready, raw dough type of thing, and that's the wheat's contribution. Anyway, so let's get a little more. So this is pretty good. This isn't very old. What we don't want is to smell ham, celery, anything kind of like that. But the smokiness, these are all faults. This means that the beer is either old or there's been some miscalculations in the production or some sanitation issues, but most likely in production or packaging. We don't want to smell bubblegum, and we don't in this case. But what we might see, we might get a little bit of vanilla. It's really hard to pick out, though. I mean, I would say that it's like it's going to interlace in between, if that makes any sense. Yeah. Okay. So let's give this a taste. Looking for a medium body, fairly aggressive carbonation. The bottles are more aggressively carbonated than the cans, I find. Sort of a soft, pillowy mouthfeel. No astringency. A fairly medium dry aftertaste, actually, with the banana and the clove lingering. And so the primary flavors there are still that banana. And then the clove comes in on this one, secondly, and that lingers more. The banana kind of disappeared, and now here's the clove. That wheat sharpness, it's kind of like a bit of a tartness from the wheat. It's referred to as sharpness, which makes me sort of think of Danish licorice, which is not something I want in my beer. Well, especially not this beer. It's not sourness though, so it is a very subtle kind of feeling or flavor. I'm not getting much else. There's not much in the way of hops, and there is that sort of bready malt. So the yeast products are really dominating, and so that's the banana's isoamyl acetate, and that's an ester produced by the yeast. And you need a specific yeast that's for the clove that's POF positive. so it can produce 4-vinyl guaiacol from some precursors found in the malt, the ferulic acid specifically. So that's Weissbier. So just to reiterate, we're not looking for much from the malt, except for a little bit of bread doughness and some sharpness from the wheat in the mouth. We're not looking for much from hops, maybe a bit of subtle floral notes, and just some, and I guess I should have touched on bitterness. The bitterness here is going to be supportive. It shouldn't be too high, but it will keep the beer from being cloying. And then we are looking for banana and clove as our primaries. So that's it for Weissbier. That's it for the first one, and we'll see you next time. Stay thirsty, stay curious.